We're on, man.
We're on. For those of you, for everyone tuning in who's not privy to our behind-the-scenes conversations, Boss Man is on the road again. He's all over the place. He's in Washington, D.C., and literally just pulled up while the intro was going on. So welcome in. How's everybody doing tonight? Appreciate y'all. We are Biscuits SEC. We are coming to you live as we do every Wednesday. We've got a good show coming up tonight. A little bit of a blowout streak across the SEC last week with 3 of the 5 games being out of hand, but a couple close ones. So we'll go through some thoughts on week 11, some college football playoff thoughts. I also thought we might touch a little bit on the LSU saga that kind of won't end. And then we have our guest picker, Chloe Rigdon from Crimson Tide Productions to give us her week 12 picks. So good show coming up. Boss Man, how you doing? I know you're in our nation's capital. So I don't know, Columbia to DC feels like some kind of covert CIA operation you got going on. We don't have to get too much into the details, but you are in our nation's capital. So how goes it?
Yeah, I can't talk about it. Otherwise, I'd have to kill you. But having a good time. It's good to be up in the nation's capital. I used to live here. Haven't been back up here in a long time. Not working for the CIA, promise. I just have other fun business ventures that I work on outside of Biscuits and SEC. And so just was up here for some business meetings. But from Columbia to the District of Columbia in America. And we'll be in New York City tomorrow for an interview. And so looking forward to that. So lots going on here for Boss Man, but that's why they call him Boss Man. That's why they call me Boss Man, I guess. I just got a lot going on, but it's all good stuff. And we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. I'm looking forward to talking about week 11, what's going on in week 12. We pre-recorded with Chloe earlier today to oblige her. She's helping out at her church tonight. It's her second time volunteering, so she's excited about that. And so we were happy to let her go and work with the children at her church, which is a wonderful thing to do. So we will play that a little bit later. But, yeah, lots to get into. Going to be a lot of fun tonight. And thanks to everybody for joining us. Absolutely. Well, before we hop into it, we'll just say shameless plug as usual. You all know the drill. Sign up for the newsletter, biscuitssec.com/newsletter. Coming out twice a week, Mondays, Fridays. It's free. We just keep you up to date with the latest SEC news, quick thoughts on upcoming games or games from the past weekend, injury reports, all of the above. So would appreciate that. And, of course, subscribe to the channel, follow us at Biscuits and SEC on all the social platforms. We are basically everywhere you could think to find us, I suppose, other than TikTok, because we have just refused to get on that platform to this point. So maybe we're missing out, but at this juncture, there's no Biscuits and SEC on TikTok. So if there is one out there, they are impersonators, not the real thing. But right, I say we hop into it. So let's just talk about some of the games from last week. We can kind of start with the 3 games that were a little bit more out of hand, and then I've got some thoughts, of course, on Bama, LSU, and Vandy, Arkansas. But the A&M Missouri game, the Georgia Mississippi State game, and the Kentucky Florida game all turned out to be well in hand in the second half. So kind of just go down the line here. But do you want to give us your thoughts initially on A&M and Missouri? Yeah, so I actually want to start on the opposite end of this with Kentucky, and then I'll go back. Kentucky, Georgia, A&M, because Kentucky, to me, was the biggest surprise of the weekend. I mean, I did not expect that at all. Shout out to our friend JT, our little cousin who was on last week, Little Boss Man. He called it. He was like, the Gators, those reptiles, man, they can't go up there in cold weather and 50-degree weather in Lexington and have much luck. And they didn't. And DJ Lagway gets benched. And Kentucky just rolled over the Gators. So, I mean, I was impressed for the first time in 2025 with Kentucky and the way that they played. And for all the talk about Mark Stoops and is he on the hot seat and Kentucky fans are frustrated with him and all that, he's ripped off 2 straight wins and got a coach fired in his last one against Auburn when they beat Auburn last week. And then
this week they get a really nice win over Florida. So, there's a chance I think that Kentucky can go bowling, right? I mean, I'm surprised to say it, but I think that's the truth. Let me find their schedule here and I'll pull it up. But yeah, so get that win over Auburn, get that win over Florida, and you're right back in the thick. And you got Vanderbilt and then Louisville. Now, those are going to be tough games, but you have a shot to go bowling now. So, with that Tennessee Tech there, right? Obviously, we're thinking that's going to be a W, and if it's not, then Mark Stoops should get fired. But I think it's still in front of them. I don't think they're going to go bowling, but they have a shot. So, just impressed with Kentucky and the way that they've fought when the chips have kind of been down for them. So for Georgia, I was also a little surprised at this one, frankly. Georgia just hasn't been covering spreads this year. They've been winning, and they've been winning late and winning, by thin margins, having to, do a drive late in the fourth quarter in order to win some of these games. But they get a win. They go in there to Starkville, and I thought that the Cowbells might, put them on their heels a little bit because Kentucky or Mississippi State has played teams very well this year for the most part. And so with the way Georgia played and the way that Mississippi State has played throughout the year, I just thought this game was going to be closer, and Georgia just came out and stomped them early, and that game was over, just after halftime. So impressive win there by Georgia, and they just keep rolling, and college football playoffs still out in front of them. They're going to have, it looks like they're probably going to have a little help depending on how the next few weeks shake out in order to make Atlanta, but because of that loss to Alabama. But it's still out in front of them, and they're still, college football playoff is right there for them. So Kirby Smart still has these guys tough to kill, man, tough to kill. A&M, just impressive. I mean, Mizzou has the best defense in terms of total defense in the SEC, and A&M put up 38 on them. And by the way, A&M left points on the field. There were a couple drives there. There was multiple times where you were like, A&M should have punched it in there. A&M should have done this. And they still put up 38 points. The fake punt that Mike Elko called deep in Mizzou territory, or deep in Mizzou's territory. I mean, the stones on that guy, man. What a call right there in that spot. Dalton Brooks has an incredible game, and they just go into Mizzou and get a win. They're just steamrolling teams right now, and it really looks like they're peaking at the right time with Marcel Chance Reed. I don't know what that means, but that's all over Twitter. Chance. But great win for the Aggies, and we'll see what it looks like for Mizzou going forward. I just think that the difficulty with Mizzou right now is not having Bo Pribula. And we talked about that a little bit with Chloe in her guest picker segment. But Matt Zoller's talented freshman, but they may not be what they were when they had Bo Pribula.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I'll go in reverse order here and start with the Aggies and work my way over after you got your thoughts out there. But yeah, I think, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you look around the country and A&M's been in this boat in the past too. Of course, they beat Arkansas by 3 on the road. So it's not like there's some unbeatable juggernaut, but to go on the road, and I said this in our recaps on biscuitsandSEC.com for those of y'all that still enjoy the written word, we do put recaps up every week on the website. Mizzou was not going to score 38 with Bo Pribula. So I get the argument, and this game was probably more lopsided than it would have been had Pribula been in there. I think that's clear. I mean, 7 of 22 from Zollers. He was overmatched in that game, and that's fine. He's a freshman, so it is what it is. It's unfortunate for Missouri, but Pribula is good, but he's not 21-point difference maker good, in my opinion. So that game, whatever the final score may or may not have been with him in there, that was an A&M win. And you brought it up. Missouri's defense is really good. Their run game is really good. Without a quarterback, that's still a very strong opponent. And to go on the road and beat them, by 20, 21 points, 24 points. I can't do math, 21 points. But that's just an impressive win. And, look, hey, when you talk about injuries, I think this is something, because A&M has been winning, that's gone really undersold. And I know Mike, our friend Mike Huseman from Off Season After Dark, has been asking for updates here. But When A&M lost Le'Veon Moss last year, their season crumbled, fell apart. They lost 3 of their last 4 games, and they couldn't run the ball on offense. And, he's been hurt. I can't even remember what game he got hurt in. But he's been hurt since the end of September, I think. Yeah. He missed all of October, and he missed, the first couple games of November. And A&M's offense has been great. We've talked about it. They're extremely multiple in the ways that they can attack you with different skill position groups and different players within those groups. I mean, the tight ends are all over the place. They're using multiple running backs. Reuben Owens has stepped up in the absence of Le'Veon Moss. And then, the receivers, Concepcion and Craver, just had another great game. Bethel Roman continues to emerge. He had a touchdown in this one. So, yeah, very impressed with A&M. See what they do this weekend against South Carolina, but it's nice to be coming home. A&M had 3 consecutive road games and won them all. So There's a lot of talk about, college football playoff rankings, or I've seen a lot of talk on Twitter about A&M's schedule because they've gotten a favorable draw, no doubt. But, man, you go into Tiger Stadium at night and win the way they won. You go into Missouri and win the way they won. I don't know. I think there's no cakewalk in the SEC, and relative to other teams, it's totally fair to say that A&M has had an easier draw, but overall, very impressed with what the Aggies are doing. On the Georgia side, yeah, man, I can't figure them out. You could go back and look at my picks this year. I bet you I've guessed wrong every single week for whether they're going to cover or not, because I can't figure them out. They win games, but gosh, they are probably the most frustrating team to be, picking against the spread with, because you just never know what they're going to do. And I thought Mississippi State would be able to give them a little more trouble, but ultimately,
all right, what's going on, everybody?
Georgia offense.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the Georgia offense just didn't work. We got production. Producer needs to figure it out, but
got to get in my ear. That was Hey, fix it back there.
All good, but yeah, I mean that was just an offensive clinic in my opinion, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. And not to toot our own horns, but I'm hearing a lot more people say this now on social media and stuff. But dude, Mike Bobo is doing a great job, and what he's done with Gunnar Stockton is impressive, and so. Yeah, they just overmatched Mississippi State's defense in that one, obviously, got the win, 41-21. So good for them. I think, Mississippi State, we talked about them a lot. That's a much improved and a good football team. I think, they got a good chance to get to a bowl if they can sneak out one of these last ones. But, just a reminder that, hey, on a week in and week out basis, they can jump up and get teams, as we've seen, obviously, but if Georgia brings their A game, they're not hanging, and I think that's what happened. And then, on the Kentucky side, that's another team, man, that was left for dead a couple weeks ago. So give credit to Mark Stoops. There's been a lot of talk about his job security, and I'm not ready to say that he's saved his job. I don't know what the temperature is in Lexington. I know the buyout is large, but they're fighting for him, which is more than you can say for a lot of these teams across the SEC. So good for Kentucky. Cutter Boley, I think they have something there. He's playing good, and he. What I really like about him is he seems to have the buy-in from the rest of the team. We talk a lot about that with a Gunnar Stockton or a Marcel Reed or a Ty Simpson. These teams that are doing well. So it's just an intangible thing where he seems like he's a leader, and they buy in. Seth McGowan is a great back. They are looking more over the last couple of weeks like a Mark Stoops Kentucky team that is pretty physical. They like to run the ball, and finally they have a decent quarterback who's not completely inept back there, and it's paying off in some wins. And on the Florida side, I give all the credit in the world to Kentucky because, if your will breaks, somebody's breaking it. And that was Kentucky, but their will just broke, dude. That was a give up. And, it felt like to me the Florida defense, especially that was the side of the ball that gave up, just because the Gator offense has been bad all year, continues to be bad. DJ Lagway is hopefully he can find something with a new coach, whether it's at Florida or if he hits the portal. But he's talented, but he's completely lost. So I don't know what the issue is there, but he's lost, and it felt like the defense just. They couldn't withstand all the turnovers and the 3 interceptions, and they probably, like kind of said, kind of just laid down and were like, F this, man. Like, we're done. We've been busting our butts all season. Our coach is fired. We just lost a tough one to Georgia, and here we are in Lexington, Kentucky, and our offense is yet again putting us in horrible positions. We're getting left out to dry. They've got injuries across the board. And I'll put injuries in quotes because it feels like some of those guys are making business decisions and trying to preserve red shirts and years of eligibility. But yeah, Florida seems lost. And, again, credit to Kentucky for breaking their will and for being ready to take advantage and step on their throat when a team is down like that, instead of giving them any sort of a leap. I mean, it was clear. It was like, yeah, we're here to win and we're going to break you. And they did.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we ought to mention with Florida is that Lagway gets benched. Yeah, that's a great comment, Mike. Yeah, Lynn Bowden.
I forgot about the Lynn Bowden era. That was quite the time.
Certainly was. Coach Stoops is creative. I mean, he's creative. It doesn't always work out, but it hasn't, for the majority of his time in Kentucky. It's just been a rough couple of years. But again, like we talked about, they got momentum. But with Lagway, so they bench Lagway, and now it looks like Trammell Jones Jr., he comes in non-committal after the game, was Frank Wilson, the interim coach. But he came out in the press conference, I think it was on Monday, and said that the DJ Lagway is going to be considered the starter moving forward. I didn't hear if he said that Trammell Jones is going to get some more reps or what that's going to look like, or I really don't know. But sounds like DJ Lagway, it's his job still. But you pull him in that game, and I really think, you were mentioning it, like he seems lost. This to me feels like one of those things where somebody gets the yips and they lose confidence. And when you lose confidence and you're not, playing with confidence and senior reads and hitting people downfield, and it doesn't feel like it's in rhythm, players of the caliber of DJ Lagway, which we all know his talent is immense. He doesn't have a ceiling in terms of his talent and his intangibles. So it feels like it's a confidence thing, and it feels like what's happened here at Florida this year has really hurt his confidence. And we'll see. He said he's a Gator through and through, and we'll see if that ends up being the case at the end of the year. And the truth of the matter is, whatever coach ends up being the head coach of Florida is going to get to make a choice. Is it going to be DJ Lagway moving forward? Do we want to keep him? Do I want to make this my guy? Or do I want to go into the portal and get somebody else? Or do I want to bring my quarterback along with me from whatever school they end up coming from? So a lot of question marks at Florida in terms of the quarterback position and what it looks like moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get into some of the other exciting games. We'll start with maybe Vandy, Arkansas. I kind of have more thoughts on this game than even the Bama LSU one. But Vandy, Auburn. Man, again, don't gamble, kids, because we both had Auburn to cover, and I said this as well in the recaps where I was like, hey, I picked Auburn to cover because I liked the buy-in that I saw from the Auburn roster about DJ Durkin. It seemed like he's a very well-liked coach there, and I liked the things he had to say about the offense. Just he was very blunt and upfront about, I think there are things we can do to unlock some offensive prowess that we haven't been able to this year. And I'm sticking with one play caller. And I don't know what was going on behind the scenes when Freeze was there. We've already gone over that, but I just liked his tone and his confidence. And so, I thought, all right, Auburn's talented. They have a good defense. Maybe they can go in there and at least cover against Vandy. Obviously they end up not covering 6.5 because they lose in overtime, which is crazy. But What I definitely didn't see was this offensive explosion. So credit to Derek Nix, the Auburn offensive coordinator and play caller, and credit to Durkin for empowering him and enabling him to call the game.
One play caller.
And one play caller. We talked a lot about it last week with the freeze firing, but this just goes to show, man, that I don't know what that guy was doing, but Ashton Daniels can play. He looked great in this game. I mean, he had 422 yards of total offense and 4 touchdowns in this game. And Cam Coleman went off. He had like 11 receptions. Eric Singleton had 10. So it feels like it's one of those instances where sometimes simplifying things is the answer. And the simple answer when you have guys that are that talented is, okay, we have a dual threat quarterback in Ashton Daniels. We're going to let him use his legs. We're going to move the pocket, let him get outside. And if you get in trouble, dude, Cam Coleman is out there. So just throw it up. There was a lot of times where he just threw the ball up to Cam Coleman and he made a play. So credit to Auburn there. Again, really tough way to lose. But on the flip side, of course, a ton of credit goes to Vandy, right? I just mentioned how Ashton Daniels went off, 442 yards of offense, 4 touchdowns. Well, the reason they lost this game is because Diego Pavia outdid him and had like 490 yards of total offense and 4 touchdowns. That guy's just a winner. We keep saying it, and this is a great instance of a game where we've been giving A&M credit for this all year, winning games in different ways. Well, Vandy just did that too. Their defense has been good most of the year. The defense was totally lost in this game. Auburn was carving them up, and Pavia says, all right, guys, no problem. Like, I'll do this. And at the same time, like, the Auburn defense has been really good this year. So it's not like they were playing, little sisters of the poor and Pavia just went out there and tore them up. It's like, dude, A&M scored 16 on this Auburn team. Like, Mizzou scored 17, Georgia 20, Kentucky 10 points. Like, this is a good Auburn defense, and Pavia just carved them up.
Yeah, he did. It was impressive. I'll start with Auburn here. Like you said, I mean, this is the most any team has scored on Vanderbilt this season. This Auburn team, with the offense that we have seen this entire year, this Auburn team was the one that scored the most on Vanderbilt this entire season. So, like, where the heck has this offense been? And I think it goes back to something that we talked about last week when we talked about when Hugh Freeze got fired. It's that, when he was at Ole Miss, his offense was innovative. His offense was tough to defend. It was different. And it was explosive. And now, when Hugh Freeze was at Auburn for the last couple of years, it has not been explosive in the least. And he couldn't get out of his own way. Maybe he's got multiple play callers. Who knows how much truth there was to that. I think there was a little truth to it. Sounds like Hugh Freeze maybe was coming in late and giving play calls late in the count to try to change a play call or tweak a play call or what have you. And it was obviously a mess, and it obviously did not work, which is why Hugh Freeze is no longer on the sidelines. And to me, this was just vindication of, like, he was the problem. He was the roadblock for Auburn as to why they weren't good. I mean, you've got all these guys. You got Ashton Daniels, right, who apparently is very good. Cam Coleman, who on the outside, who has been unbelievably underutilized. Eric Singleton, underutilized. Like, they have plenty of weapons to be a mid to upper tier SEC team, and they were just bad. They were terrible on offense. And now in this game, they come in and score the most of anybody this season on this Vanderbilt defense. I mean, Mizzou scored 10 points on this defense last week. And I know Bo Perbula went out, in that game with injury, and then it was Matt Zollers in the second half. But still, Mizzou scored 10 points on this defense, and Auburn scores 38. And credit to DJ Durkin and what he did. And I know, like, I listened to Jay Crane and those guys, and they're just like, fire everybody. They're done. I get it. I do get it. But I think you got to give DJ Durkin a little bit of time. Let's see what it looks like the rest of the year. Because I think he's a really good coach. I really do. I loved what he had to say on the podium. I mean, he obviously cares a ton about those guys in the locker room. I don't think that was fake. He's basically up there holding back tears about how these Auburn players came together, in the locker room. So credit to him for what he was able to put together. They weren't able to pull out the win in Nashville, and defense is his forte, and Vandy scores 45. So understood as to why Auburn fans are still not super happy about it. But on the flip side of that, for Vanderbilt, like you said, I mean, Diego Pavia he went off. I mean, what did you say? How many yards did you say he had? It was like close to 500 yards of total offense, or 400 yards.
Yeah, it was like 490. He had over 100 rushing and like 370 yards passing. I mean, it was a clinic.
Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he's just playing lights out right now. It's impressive to watch. To me, I know people are sick of him in some ways. He's too brash for some people. I love it. If you can go out there and be brash and back it up with your play, which he has done for the most part, except for the Alabama stuff, before talking so much smack in the offseason, you lose to Alabama. So, okay.
And he was practicing his kneel downs pregame.
Practicing the kneel pregame. So I get it in terms of kind of being a little bit done with him on that. But aside from all that, like, if you can go out there, talk your smack and back it up, I'm all in for it. As long as you back it up, and he backs it up 90% of the time, most of the time, majority of the time, he backs it up. And what he did against Auburn was impressive. And again, they just find ways to win like that. That is what is going on with this Clark Lee team. And what he has instilled in this team is that mentality of resiliency. We're never out of the fight, right? Like we're coming at you. We're coming at you. We're coming at you. We're playing the next play, and we don't care what happens. They get stopped late in the fourth quarter and give Auburn the ball back. And then look, Auburn has a chance to win. Yeah. Auburn has a chance to go down, drive down, and win. And they can't get the job done. And so you give Vandy another life. A lot like Georgia, these guys are tough to kill. And they were tough to kill against Auburn on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of tough to kill, we'll hit on Alabama and LSU before we get into our guest picker segment with Chloe Rigdon. So, yeah, the Tide are just tough to kill, man. I mean, I honestly don't have a ton to say about this. We'll start with Bama. I think pretty workmanlike win. Defense, of course, played well. Offense, not great, but Simpson, as usual, took care of the ball, and they left some stuff out there. There was a few, bigger plays downfield that were just out of reach.
Yep.
But, a good win at home. And for the LSU side, man, this felt like for as different as Auburn was without Hugh Freeze, this looked the exact same. I mean, I've seen this LSU game 5-7 times this year already. And sometimes they were able to win them earlier in the year against maybe weaker opponents, but you're not going to play that game in Bryant-Denny and get a win. And I mean, I don't know what's going on there. Nussmeier gets benched. I don't think he's the problem. Obviously, President Van Buren came in and also was very ineffective. So what are your thoughts on this one? That was an ugly game from the LSU side.
It was an ugly game. I mean, look, Alabama should have won this game by a lot more, kind of like you said, right? Like they were the better team. LSU totally in quit mode, fired your coach, and that's exactly what happened, right? They couldn't score to beat the broadside of a barn. I mean, you got 6 points before you bench Nussmeier. You bring in President Van Buren, and he doesn't have much luck either. They score 3 points when he's in the game. Credit to the Alabama defense. This Alabama defense is playing very well, and they're starting to peak at the right time. Like that, this is a scary Alabama team. It really is. Looking back to week 1, we were all kind of, we're worried about it. The dynasty's over. It's done. Ty Simpson, is he the guy? Didn't look very good against Florida State. And all they've done is go back to work. And Ty Simpson, let's not forget this. Ty Simpson, earlier in the year, after that Florida State game, he was in the post-game gaggle with press, and press were asking him, and he basically was just like, we have to get back to work. We're going to make sure that we do everything that we possibly can to make sure that, Tide fans don't feel this way the rest of the year, because we as players don't want to feel this way either. And I'm paraphrasing there, but you can go back and find that clip. And a lot of Tide fans on social media were like kind of frustrated with it. Like, yeah, you better, like, that was ridiculous. And, you're not the guy and all this stuff. And he's turned out to be the guy. He's a stud. And he didn't play incredible in this game, but like you said, he protected the ball. He did what he had to do. And Alabama gets a win. And LSU, this to me was the final dagger for them in their season. I mean, look, fire Brian Kelly, A&M probably put the first dagger in you, and then Alabama just, finally finishes off the deed with Nussmeier getting benched. And Nussmeier's on the sideline. The coach is yelling at him. He's kind of, just like numb in the face. Like what, can't believe that this season has turned out the way that it has when national championship was the expectation at the start of the year. So good win for Alabama. They got everything in front of them. You have Atlanta in your sights, and you got the college football playoff right there in your sights as well. And it looks like we're on a crash course for Alabama and Texas A&M in Atlanta at the end of the year. Still could shake out a little bit differently, but based on what the tracks are right now, that's what it looks like. And for LSU, I think it's just this season is a complete wash. We got to hire our new coach, and let's just get through the next 2 games and get to the off season.
Yeah, I mean, for LSU, just real quick to bring up their remaining schedule here. So, they get Arkansas this week. Literally anything could happen in that game. And then they get Western Kentucky, and then at Oklahoma to close out the year. So you're right. I mean, they just want to get to the off season and put a bow on this. I think we'll probably go ahead and hop into our interview with Chloe. We will talk on the backside, maybe a little bit of LSU coaching search kind of saga. I don't think we need to spend too much time, but there's obviously been an update there. And then a little bit of college football playoff rankings thoughts. So without further ado, let's get to our interview with Chloe Rigdon of Crimson Tide Productions.
Okay, here it goes. Let me make sure I get this right. Full screen, and then we'll play it. If it will play. We had to set this up and do a pre-record because Chloe is helping out at her church tonight, which we were happy to oblige and let her do that. So we're doing this here. It's 2:30 on the East Coast right now where I am. I'm on another business trip. I'm all over the world. Carmen Sandy Bossman, that's who I am. So we're going to have a little bit of fun today, though. And we got Chloe Rigdon here. So Chloe is with Crimson Tide Productions. You can follow her there, right there. Go follow her on X at Chloe_Rigdon. Chloe cheered at Alabama. She cheered at WKU. She loves sports, and she does a great job for Crimson Tide Productions. So, Chloe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so good. You really made me sound like a good person when you said I got to go help out at the church tonight. For the record, this is only my second time, so yeah.
Just testing the waters. It's all good. Well, okay, so check this out. She is an on-air team member and production assistant for Crimson Tide Productions. Those are all of her social media channels. X right there, as I mentioned earlier. Instagram at Chloe Rigdon, and then you can follow her on YouTube as well at reporter Chloe Rigdon. And that is her right there with the queen of the SEC, Laura Rutledge. So she knows some people in high places, I would say. So we're excited to have her on today. You can also go and check out her work for Crimson Tide Productions on Instagram and on X at UACTP for the Crimson Tide Productions channels. So, Chloe, we're excited to have you on. Like I said, one thing to get to before we get straight into picks here is the picker standings. So we've got Rivers Huey up there at the top. She's at 4-2, and then Gabe Bach and Drew TAMU, and then our cousin from last week, Little Boss Man.
Yep.
He did pretty dang good. He went 4-2 as well. You can see there Ellie Mae, Emily Grace, and then Cruz Oxenrider, Easton Bach there at 3-3. Daily Joy, Stingray, and Cornbread are bringing up the rear at 2-4. So, Chloe, the 5-1 and 6-0 elusive are still out there, and you could get it this week and jump right into first place. So we ask all our guests this here before we get into picks. What is the pulse of the Alabama fan base right now as to where they're going? I mean, week one, obviously the big loss to Florida State, but since then they just keep winning, and they look like they're destined for the college football playoff, at least Atlanta for now. So what's the pulse right now? What are you hearing in T-Town?
I'm chilling. Our heart rates are slow. Yeah, we had that tough loss, but I think that they needed it. It humbled them a little bit. You know, we had all that summer talk, as every team does, like, hey, they're going to be really good. Watch out for them. And like Nick Saban says, that's rat poison. It never fuels them. It never fuels a team correctly. So we had that first loss. It was tough on everybody. By God, it was tough on me. I was there. I watched it in person. But then Ty becomes what Arch Manning was supposed to be. And we see this incredible team, this explosive offense. We've seen us win out. We've seen us in high pressure environments and executing. So I feel like we're going to win out. Obviously, we'll pick between Oklahoma and Bama. We'll talk about that later. But I think we're really set up for a good spot here. And that first loss was, I think it really ended up being more good for us than bad. So I'm chilling. I think everybody else is chilling too.
Seems like it. Nobody wants to fire Kalen DeBoer anymore. So that's a nice change.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Tide are looking really good. I can't remember what Hank said in the preseason, but I think both of us picked Ty Simpson to win some award. I picked him to be SEC Player of the Year. After week 1, I was really worried about that. In fact, we found this graphic. I'll show you here. Boss man for picking Ty Simpson as Player of the Year and the Alabama Dynasty 2009 to 2025.
Premature, possibly.
We were wrong. We were wrong about a lot. So anyway, Hammer, what did you pick him? I can't remember. Was it?
So I think I actually picked Ryan Williams as like the Offensive Player of the Year. So that hasn't quite come true. It's really been Jeremy Bernard who's been the best weapon for the Tide offense. But yeah, I mean, coming into the year, I think both you and I were of the mind that Simpson would have a good year because he'd been there for so long. He chose to stick it out, not transfer, and Kalen DeBoer's track record of developing quarterbacks. And just, Simpson's fairly mobile, but not a runner by any stretch. And so that kind of fits the DeBoer mold, at least what he had done with Penix, where he's very comfortable with that style of quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, Chloe, like you said, Simpson has really turned into what people thought Arch Manning would be. And at this point, especially given the lack of run game that Alabama's been able to generate, I mean, I don't know how you could look around the SEC and say anybody's a better quarterback than him right now.
Yeah, he plays traditionally. He's that traditional style of quarterback, and he fits, like you said, Kalen DeBoer's offense, whereas Jalen Milroe, we didn't really see that. But now he's fitting Kalen DeBoer's mold, and he's also traditional in a sense where he waited his turn. He stayed and he waited his turn to play, and we don't see that anymore. So not only is he such a good quarterback and leading this team, but he's also just such a good guy all around. Like, he came and spoke. We had a worship night at the stadium, and he came and shared his testimony. So as a fan, it's so easy to respect him in all aspects of who he is.
Yeah, we love that. And we've loved to see it for him, especially, like you said, like he did it the right way. We've talked about that on this show before. You don't see that in this day and age. And so many guys would have transferred out and tried to go somewhere else. And who you couldn't have even faulted him for it, right? Like, it makes sense. He's behind a couple of guys. He wants to get playing time, but he didn't. He stuck it out through a coaching change. And now we're seeing the payoff. And it's really fun to watch. So, all right, let's get into some picks here. I think the first one I want to start with is Mississippi State and Mizzou. So Mizzou is 7.5-point favorite here. The question here is really, who is Missouri post Bo Pribula injury, right? I mean, we saw them last week. Matt Zollers played against A&M, his first start, and it didn't go so well. I mean, the A&M defense is one of the better ones in the SEC. It's tough to go up against the Mike Elko defense. And so he looked discombobulated most of the day, and A&M got after him. This game is going to be interesting because you've got Mississippi State as well, who's coming in. They have a pretty good offense, but Missouri kind of quietly has one of the better defenses in the SEC. They've got the number one passing defense in the SEC. And then you also have a pretty porous run defense for Mississippi State. So Ahmad Hardy could get going. Missouri against A&M last week had over 200 yards rushing. So this could be a big game for that Mizzou rushing attack. So what are you thinking in this game? Who gets the win? Who covers?
Well, I want to pick Mississippi State because I'm from Mississippi. That's where my heart is. Who do I actually think is going to win? It's going to win. I would say Mizzou because I watched Bama play against that defense. It was a tough game. It was at Mizzou, like Alabama's or Mississippi State's going to play at Mizzou. So it's a tougher environment than what you'd expect. You don't hear a lot of people talking about it. But, yeah, that defense is crazy. They got a number of sacks on Ty. And like I said, I want to pick Mississippi State, but I think Mizzou wins, and I think they cover.
Got it. Okay. All right. So you're thinking Matt Zollers. He gets it together, and it's at home. I think that's a good pick at home. And Mississippi State has been shaky at times this year. They give up leads, but they could be in it to the end. We'll see. All right, Hammer, take us to the battle for the boot. Let's go to Arkansas, heading to Baton Rouge to play LSU. Fired coach. We'll see if Garrett Nussmeier. It's going to be, Garrett Nussmeier, Michael Van Buren. So take us to the boot.
Yeah, this is an interesting game, kind of a sicko game, I guess, on like the national scale, because you really have to be an SEC fan or a fan of one of these teams to care that much. Because both coaches are fired, but this is a rivalry game. I think the teams are going to care about this. It's just how much does effort and caring translate to success on the field? Because unfortunately, for both these teams this year, it hasn't really, right? So. Just from my perspective coming into this game, as Boss Man mentioned, for LSU, their offense is totally inept. And obviously the coaching change and the offensive coordinator change didn't really improve anything, at least against Alabama last week. But we don't really know who's going to start at quarterback. It doesn't seem like either one, Nussmeier or President Van Buren, is the answer. But then the other side, Arkansas, defense is not good. Offense has had really good games, but it feels very much like the injection of some, juice from Bobby Petrino getting that interim job and trying obviously very, very hard to get the full-time gig is kind of gone because they've lost every game he's coached. So I'm just interested to see like what the effort is from these teams in this game. And then, who actually can pull it out on the field and potentially get a win. So LSU favored by 5.5 here. A rare SEC like noon 12:45 kick in Baton Rouge. What are your thoughts in this one?
Well, like you said, you got two interim-led teams with nothing to lose. So it really just comes down to, okay, really who cares here? Because, once you lose a coach, you lose your quarterback, you lose a lot of people. You don't really have that same drive. But also at the same time, when you lose a coach, we've seen it with Auburn, we've seen it with other teams, a lot of people gather around this interim coach and they show all the support in the world, and it makes the players want it more. So it really comes down to that, in my opinion. I would choose LSU just because Nussmeier still has things to prove for himself. He's going to declare for the draft, and he wants to continue building his resume, continuing making himself look good. So I would pick LSU because I think they're the more talented team. Their O-line is really awful, but I think that Arkansas is – I just don't think they can pull it off. And it's in Baton Rouge, like you guys said. So I definitely pick LSU.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, from the LSU side, their offensive line, as you brought up, has been so bad this year. But if there's a team in the SEC that's not equipped to take advantage of that, it's probably Arkansas. Their defense has just really struggled. So maybe LSU can find something on offense in this one.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. What I want to see in this game is, like you said, there's nothing to lose. You got both interim coaches. We know Bobby Petrino likes to pull a whole bunch of stuff out of the bag. I want to see like a bunch of trick plays. I just want to see a crazy game. And I think that's very possible in Baton Rouge this weekend. So, all right, let's head to our favorite game of the week. We're Aggies, Chloe, just so you're aware. And both of us graduated from A&M. I graduated in 2014. Hank was 17. And so just keep that in mind when you're making your pick. Just as you're thinking about it. So we got South Carolina heading to Kyle Field. A&M is a 17.5-point favorite, which, I got to be honest, as an Aggie fan, that kind of scares me. But South Carolina, A&M owned this rivalry for the Bonham Trophy. Nobody knows where it is.
Bonham Trophy.
Yeah, but, rivalry game. But A&M owned it since they came into the SEC up until about 3 years ago. Then South Carolina started winning when it was in Williams-Brice. They got A&M last year when A&M was on a roll, And then that kind of started the downward spiral for A&M last year. But with it being in Kyle Field, we'll see. I think one of the things that's a big question mark in this game, or at least a key to the game, is the South Carolina offensive line versus the Aggie defensive front. So you got Cassius Howell, Damian Sanford, Torian York, all these guys for A&M who have been rushing the passer very well this year, not to mention guys like DJ Hicks and others, Albert Regis. So do you think that South Carolina offensive line is going to be able to hold up against the Aggies defense? Is Lenore Sellers going to be able to break through, or do you think the Aggies just keep rolling on to the college football playoff?
I think the Aggies keep rolling on. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember this, but during the summer, like all that summer talk, everybody was saying South Carolina is going to be so good. Everybody needs to fear them. And then tale as old as time, they end up amounting to literally nothing. Their record's awful. And Texas A&M has been a sleeper team. Nobody talks about them, and then they come in and they dominate, and they're beating good teams. I feel like we haven't seen them play a team at their caliber yet because, there aren't that many teams that are so good, but it is hard to tell how good a team is until they play another really good team, which hopefully we'll see that soon. But I definitely pick Texas A&M here. If I'm an Aggies fan like you guys, I would sit back and not care about this game too much. I would not worry about it before I go to sleep at night. I think you'll be just fine based off patterns we've seen with South Carolina, and Texas A&M keeps on rolling.
Love it. That's what we love to hear. You can stay on the show. You're welcome to come back anytime now. But I think you're right. We were actually, Hank and I were talking pre-show about this game, and in previous years it's been, are you worried about South Carolina? And sometimes it was like, yeah, and last year it was like, yes, Lenora Sellers looks really good. The South Carolina team, they took Alabama to the wire, right? They took LSU to the wire last year. So we were kind of, we're not so sure about this one. We were right about that. But going into this game this year, we don't feel the same way. South Carolina doesn't look like as good of a team as they were last year. The weapons on the outside haven't really, come to fruition. Face-on hasn't really, done much to supplant Rocket Sanders, who ended up going to the NFL. So yeah, we're not too worried about this game. We're right there with you. So Hank, take us now to Florida, going to Ole Miss in a revenge game for the Rebs, because last year Florida dashed their playoff hopes. So tell us a little bit about this game.
Yeah, this one, to me, kind of in a lot of ways feels similar to the A&M South Carolina game for certainly some different reasons. But you got Ole Miss, who's just rolling right now, sitting there at number 7. They're 9-1, I think, already. Have played 10 games. So the Rebels are absolutely rolling. And Florida, of course, is kind of a train wreck. Of course, Napier's been fired. And last week against Kentucky, it really felt like the wheels just fell off, and that team kind of gave up and got blown out in Lexington. So, but the other storyline in this game that's fascinating is the fact that we'll see at the end of the year. Obviously, Kiffin is staying tight-lipped on it, but it's very clear that that's who Florida wants. And so, I don't know, does Kiffin make a statement here by running up the score on Florida, or does he just kind of let things, try to take it easy? I don't know. Who knows if he's actually interested in that job, but there's a lot of fascinating storylines here with, two teams whose seasons have gone in different directions. But Ole Miss is favored by 13.5. It's a night game in Oxford. What are your thoughts on the Florida at Ole Miss matchup?
Well, with Lane Kiffin, anything can happen. I'm a firm believer in that. I love that guy. He's my favorite coach in all of sports, not just college football. I think he's incredible. But Ole Miss is due their annual embarrassing loss. So he could beat Florida, make a statement, or he could have that embarrassing loss like he always does every year, or he could prove himself and overcome that obstacle and win out and go to the playoffs finally. So it's hard to tell. I definitely would say Ole Miss is going to beat Florida because, Florida, like you said, wheels fell off against Mark Stoops. If your wheels fall off against Mark Stoops and he's blowing you out, then you really got to regroup, rethink, and pray to God, because that's tough. It's tough to lose to Mark Stoops. So I'm choosing Ole Miss here. I think they cover. But like I said, Ole Miss is known to lose a few embarrassing games yearly. They lost to Kentucky at home last year. So, but this is a revenge game, so we should have a different result.
I think that's right.
That's a good point.
Go ahead, Hank.
I was just gonna say it's a good point about Ole Miss being due. Like you said, or they've already played 10 games. They're 9-1, so they've got this game and then the Egg Bowl left. And it's like, well, if one of those stinker Lane Kiffin upset games is going to happen, it's either this week or next week. And so maybe it is this week. I like you're picking Ole Miss, but you're just kind of throwing that nugget out there of like, but maybe.
Former Texas A&M legend mentioned in Chloe's speech there, which was Mark Stoops, former Aggie coach Mark Stoops for about 5 hours until Texags completely revolted and changed the trajectory of the SEC forever and Texas A&M football. But hey, look, Mark Stoops last 2 weeks 2-0. He just keeps getting up. He's the Undertaker.
You watch him on YouTube TV, he turns into Nick Saban somehow. So
that is exactly right. All right, so we're going to save the best for last, which is Oklahoma and Alabama. So before we get to that, let's talk Texas and Georgia. Another big game, top 10 game. Texas is back in the top 10. They have only lost twice this year, but it feels like they've lost more. But that's because they went to overtime, with Mississippi State. They went to overtime with Kentucky. They hadn't looked good for many weeks, but they get a big win over Vanderbilt, and they outlast them. And so now going into this game against Georgia, they have to go to Athens, which is, I think, the most difficult part of this game. Gunnar Stockton been playing very well. Georgia, except against Mississippi State, they win, but they don't cover the spread. So I'm wondering here, do you think that Texas is going to be able to go to Athens and get a win outright, or do you think Georgia wins and covers, or maybe just Georgia wins by a field goal? What are your thoughts here in this game?
It's difficult to think that a team who lost to Napier at Florida is going to go and win at Georgia, but this team has gotten better. We've seen improvements with Arch. He's finally amounting to the half of what people were saying he was going to be. Yeah. So I think he's definitely becoming more accurate, but it's hard to see them going to Georgia and winning. And I don't think Georgia is just the best team in college football. Like, I really don't think they're as good as they have been in the past, but they're still Georgia. They're still there, and it's very difficult to play in Georgia. You can hear that from Lane Kiffin. So I think Georgia covers. I think they cover this game.
Okay, sounds good. You think they win by a touchdown? You think they win by more?
I think more.
Okay. We
like
love that.
Yeah.
That's right. All right.
Also, before we continue, the playoffs on the line here. We forgot to mention that.
That's true. That's
right.
true.
Texas only having 2 losses, and one doesn't even count because it's a quality loss to Ohio State, and they didn't lose by much. So they really only had that bad loss to Florida under their belt. And then Georgia lost to Alabama, so, quality loss there. Yeah. So I guess there's a lot at stake here.
A lot at stake.
There is, no doubt about it. And, I didn't mention it because I know that at the end of the year on Black Friday, they're going to get a loss anyway when A&M goes to Austin. So, just I was already thinking ahead. Just they're already out of the playoff. We don't have to worry about that too much. All right, Hammer, take us to Oklahoma and Alabama. This is another fascinating game. I mean, John Mateer's been playing a little bit better. Number 11 Oklahoma headed to a tough environment in Tuscaloosa. The home atmosphere has become very, very good. One of the best in college football, as I know you know well, Chloe, because you're there every week. So, Hammer, take this one away.
Yeah, this is obviously a super exciting game. You mentioned in the Texas-Georgia matchup, there's college football playoff, hopes and dreams or seeding at the very least on the line, and that's the case here as well with Bama, being number 4 with 1 loss. Oklahoma is number 11 right now with their 2 losses. This game is fascinating because Oklahoma offensively has kind of struggled. Some of that was probably due to the Mateer injury and just him coming back. But Bama's got the number 3 overall defense in the SEC. It seems like they should be well equipped to handle what Oklahoma can throw. But then same story on the other side, because Oklahoma right now is number one in the SEC in terms of yards and points allowed per game. And so this one kind of feels like both the defenses are probably going to play well, and ultimately it's going to come down to, you know, which quarterback can get the job done in crunch time. And, you know, I'll let you answer here, but I feel like we probably know which quarterback, you know, you believe in this one. But what is your thoughts here? Can Bama cover 6.5 and beat OU, or is it a little closer? But we know, of course, Bama's still going to win.
Well, I don't get the privilege like you guys do. I don't get to kick my feet up and watch this game and chill, because I am a little worried about this game, if I'm being honest with you. Oklahoma is a lot better than what I expected them to be at this point in the season. They have 2 losses, so they have a lot at stake here. They want to make it to the playoffs just as bad as we do. We can't let Mateer get hot. That is a talented quarterback who I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. He has a very good arm on him, very accurate. But we have, like you said, an incredible defense. They won that game against us when our offense couldn't, against LSU, when our offense couldn't pull through. So we have our defense as long as they continue to do their job. I'm not so worried about Mateer, but our offense is a little slow in the second half, as we've seen in previous games. So I think LSU is a wake-up call for us. So we'll practice. We'll come in for this game, and hopefully, if it all goes according to plan, we'll come out of the gate hot for that second half, and we'll stay on their heels. We'll stay ahead, and the game won't get close. But if we don't do those things that I just talked about, I really think that it can be a dogfight here, and it can be really hard to get yourself out of a dogfight. But as long as we have an accurate tie, we have a hot offense out of the gate going into the second half, and our defense continues to do what our defense does, I think we're good. I think we cover. But if not, I would be fearful of Mateer. That being said, I pick Alabama, of course.
I was about to say, okay, yeah, just making sure we got that right. Well, I think that I understand why you're a little bit worried about this game. I agree with you. Oklahoma coming on, Mateer coming on, playing better since the injury now. Oklahoma's got some weapons. Oklahoma's got a really good defense. But I think that your fears will be assuaged if in the pre-game that you see Kalen DeBoer walk out in a black hoodie. If he's in a black hoodie, you can relax. It's okay. You guys are going to win. You might win by 2 touchdowns. We'll see.
That black hoodie, I've got to get my hands on one of those. I have to.
I laughed this week. I don't know if you saw it. I'm sure you did. Actually, you were probably with it. But Big Al had a black hoodie on and was messing around on the sideline with the black hoodie. It's like, okay, this is a thing. Everybody gets it now. All of Alabama is behind the black hoodie.
Yeah, I mean, I remember he was underdressed for Vanderbilt, and that's why we lost. Remember to Vanderbilt last year? But now everyone's like, keep wearing the black hoodie. We love it. Everybody changes so fast based on the success. It's so funny.
Yes, no doubt about it. Okay, well, Chloe, we have one other question that we asked all of our guests here, and I think I forgot to tell you about this question, but either way, it's a hard one. So, favorite biscuit spot. What is your favorite biscuit spot? Do you have a favorite biscuit spot in Tuscaloosa or from your hometown? It could be a homemade recipe. Do you like Mama's biscuits? What is your favorite biscuit? Biscuits and gravy, chicken biscuit. What's your favorite biscuit?
Ooh, I don't know if I have a favorite biscuit spot. So, guys, I'm on this health kick, right? So biscuits, I got to stay away from them, even though I love them and I appreciate them. If I had to pick my favorite biscuit I've ever had, it'd definitely be my mom's homemade recipe. You know, it's in the cast iron, and it's so good. And we just put bacon, egg, and cheese in it. It's simple, but good God, it's so good. You guys are going to make me want one now. But as far as biscuit spots goes, I try to cook at home. Preparing to become a wife, all that. Trying to eat healthy, trying to live long. So I try to stay away from the biscuits for the most part.
Well, what some of the things that we're trying to do here are really get out the word that biscuits are a health food. And so we actually may be funding studies in the future to show that actually biscuits are very healthy for you. And actually our friend, Rick Wilmarth, Captain Biscuit, he's a health guy too. And he's going to be happy about this shout out because he has sent us in multiple vegan biscuits and all sorts of different biscuits that he's been on. And I mean, they look pretty good. I'm willing to try them. So anyway, heard it here first. Biscuits are a health food from Biscuits and SEC. Also, the holidays are coming up. So I think you can indulge a little bit on your mom's biscuits and, bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit when you get home for the holidays.
Yeah, I'm going to put on my winter coat, which is like an extra 5 pounds. And then you got to shed it right before spring break.
There you go. That's what you got to do. All right. Well, everybody, that is Chloe Rigdon. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to go follow Chloe on X right there at Chloe Rigdon, and I'll put up the rest of them up here. So Crimson Tide Productions, she does a great job for them, at Chloe Rigdon on X, and then at Chloe Rigdon on Instagram, _Rigdon on X, and then at reporter Chloe Rigdon on YouTube. And then you can also follow all of her work on UACTP, the Crimson Tide Productions team. So Chloe, before you get out of here, is there anything you want to tell us about what's going on? You're becoming a wife. That's a big deal. Anything else going on with Crimson Tide Productions you have coming up?
I'm not becoming a wife.
You're not? I thought you just said that.
No, I said I'm preparing to become a wife, so I'm learning to
Got it.
Yeah.
You got to prepare. That's great. Good for you.
So maybe if he'll watch this, he'll consider,
There you go. I understand now.
Right.
Now that makes sense. Well, I'm preparing to become a husband by eating copious amounts of biscuits and gravy and biscuits.
More to love, for sure.
There you go. So, all right, Chloe, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciated having you on today, and good luck to the Tide this weekend, and we will see you down the road.
Yeah, good luck to you guys.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Chloe.
Thank you.
All right, we're back. Boss man, you are muted, but we are back.
I am muted. Having production issues. You were muted, then I was muted, but we're all good. That was Chloe Rigdon. So thank you to her for joining us. That was a lot of fun. She did a great job, and she does a great job for Crimson Tide Productions as well. So y'all be sure to go follow her on X, on Instagram, on YouTube as well, and go check out all her stuff because she does a great job covering the Tide.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you to Chloe for joining us. We've had a ton of fun with the guest pickers, so it's always great to have people on and just hear their thoughts on the teams they cover. And most of these people cover these teams a heck of a lot closer than we do, watching them on TV on Saturday. So it's always fun to hear what they think. I think we got two more things before we get to our final segments, the Biscuit of the Week and the Muschamp Coach of the Week. But I just wanted to briefly touch on the Brian Kelly stuff. I mean, I don't know how deep you want to go in this, but obviously there was the news that he's suing them. And it really just feels like to me at this point, I know at this point they have a president, they have an AD, they have a search committee. Everything seems to be in line, but this doesn't seem like it's going to go away because Kelly wants his money that he's owed based on the contract. And, when he sued them, there was, some, I think, court documents basically saying that, they tried to settle with him. He was somewhat open to a settlement, but then ultimately said no. And then now LSU is saying Scott Woodward didn't even have the authority to fire him. And so he's not owed the money because he's not even been fired. I mean, it just, I don't know. It's not good. What do you think about this?
Well, if Scott Woodward didn't have the authority to fire him, the governor would have fired him. So, I mean, somebody was going to fire him at LSU, that's for sure. So, look, it's this is a mess. The interesting thing about this is, there's also this is all hearsay. There's so much hearsay going on in this right now. You've got Brian Kelly on the one side who's saying, "Pay me my money," and rightfully so. I mean, you had a contract. You want to fire me, fine, but this is not for cause based on the contract. So pay me my money. And then you got LSU on the other side saying, "Yeah, well, no, we would like to settle with you. We want to keep a lot of that money. We want to keep those, $20 million or whatever we can, end up saving to end up paying that forward to a roster for next season or towards our next coach or what have you." So I understand it from both sides as to why they're trying to fight for every dollar in this respect, because the almighty dollar is almighty in college football right now. So I get it from that perspective. The interesting, the interesting thing about this that's going to come out is, there's a lot of rumors going around on the internet. I am sure that folks have seen them on X, and I'm not going to dive into those because I have no idea what is true and what is not. And frankly, I don't know that most people do either. In terms of the folks who were talking about this on Twitter, who knows what is true and what is not. But when you have a lawsuit like this, things are going to come out in discovery. You have to go through the process of discovery on both sides. And so if there are these rumors that are true, and if you want to find out what I'm talking about, just go search around on X for Brian Kelly. And if those are true, like, some of that stuff is going to come out in discovery, because that is the argument that LSU is going to make. LSU is going to say there were things happening in the background that the public did not know about. Run the gamut, right? There was all kinds of rumors of what was going on. And if some of those are true, they're going to say we had cause to fire this guy. And that's why we are trying to settle for $25 or $30 million or whatever. And Brian Kelly's on the other side, and he's going to say, well, all these things were going on in the administration, and this is the, whatever. And he's going to say, so you owe me my money, and none of that's true. So, what's true, what's not right now, nobody knows. But because this lawsuit is going through, it's going to come out in discovery, whatever is true. And you're going to have arguments on both sides. And now, this could drag on for a while in terms of the money and, what ends up getting settled. So it's ugly. It's unfortunate. And we'll see what ends up happening with LSU in terms of the coaching search. Jeff Brom looks like he is trying to extend at Louisville. Brent Key looks like he is going to probably be extended at Georgia Tech and likely to stay there. We'll talk about him in a minute. And then there's just Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is just kind of floating out there. He's kind of non-committal about all this stuff, and he's just saying we're focused on Ole Miss right now. But how much can we take from Lane Kiffin's word? That's just the truth of the matter. But yeah, we'll see where this coaching search goes. It's really ugly with the Brian Kelly stuff. And also, the final thing I'll say on this is that, LSU fans I saw a lot of this on social media, and I had forgotten about this, but the new AD at LSU, Verge Osbury, he won the press conference, right? He had this great press conference. It was a great press conference. Like, I watched, a good amount of it. He did a really good job in that press conference. Well, lest we forget, he was involved pretty heavily in a lot of the scandal stuff that went on at LSU not that long ago.
Yeah.
So to elevate him to the level of AD and then say he has all the authority to hire the next head football coach, is that the right move? I don't know either. And there's a lot of LSU fans who are pushing back like, hey, okay, look, we want the best coach that we can get too. We also want the best AD that we can get. Is this guy really the best AD that we can get? Because, look at all this stuff that was happening just recently, and he was involved in it, and he's in the reports. Like, why is this guy our AD? So
he was suspended, I believe.
He was. I think you're right. Yeah. So yeah, that's another interesting wrinkle to all this. So it's just kind of weird, on the Bayou right now. I don't exactly know what to think about it. So yeah, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, not to repeat what you said, the only other angle that I'm looking at this situation from is the way this has gone down from the very beginning just oozes lack of alignment, right? Yeah. Before Kelly was even fired, you have the governor tweeting out all this stuff. Then you have, it just, so that was bad. And then you have the governor after Kelly was fired calling for the firing of the AD, and then the AD gets fired. And then, now you have them saying that he didn't have the authority to fire Kelly, that we fired Kelly with cause, but no cause has been submitted.
Yeah.
And my understanding is, according to the contract, you have a week to file or submit the cause, and they didn't. There has been no
confirmed a cause or the reason behind it. And then, you brought up the Verge Osbury stuff, which, I haven't read through all the reports. I don't know the full story, but as you said, he's very much involved in that, whatever exactly went down with the sexual assault and Title IX, scandal that happened at LSU. And then I just think, and to make it even more muddy, when this went down, you had all these stories of people who cover LSU and know what they're talking about, saying, we came up with the money. We got the money from boosters.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, you got the governor yelling about taxpayers footing the bill. And now, again, 2 weeks after, you have this saying, oh, so it's like, do you have the money, or are you trying to, litigate this out in court because you don't? I mean, none of it makes any sense. And again, just from the outside looking in, just really screams like there's a lot of different cooks in the kitchen and they're all saying different things. And again, LSU's a fantastic job. I do think they will end up getting a good coach, but it's very possible that some of the coaches they are interested in will not be interested because of this. And maybe that won't matter, right? I mean, we talk about it all the time. Man, coaching hires coin flip, it feels like. So if you go hire somebody that doesn't have a bunch of skins on the wall, they could still do great. It's LSU. But you might have to settle for that, at least this cycle, because it just feels extremely disjointed there. And again, you're getting different stories with people saying different things, what feels like every other day. So I don't know what to make of it.
Well, and Brian Kelly was a sure thing, right? So there are no sure. Jimbo Fisher was a sure thing at Texas A&M. There are many sure things in this business that do not work out. And Brian Kelly had many flaws, and those are obvious. But at the end of the day, he had a winning record by a long shot at LSU. He just didn't win the big games, and he didn't win enough, and he botched a couple of things, as we talked about in last week's show, or 2 weeks ago, talking about his firing. But the other part of this too, just the last thing to mention on it, I don't know. Has LSU hired a president yet? I think they did, but I can't remember now.
They did. They hired the former president of McNeese.
Okay.
I can't remember his name, but they have a president.
Got it. So they have a president now. So we're starting to get some alignment. But one of the problems that LSU had was that they didn't have a president for a while. This job at the president of LSU has been open for a while as they completed their search, for a new president. And so, like you said, it's just been very disjointed at LSU, recently, from Brian Kelly, not a lot of alignment seemingly with Brian Kelly, Scott Woodward, the governors getting involved. And all of this, there's a vacuum, which I think the governor was filling, because there's no president. There's no president at LSU until just recently. And so maybe now, moving forward, you've got a president, you've got an athletic director in place. He's got the full control in order to hire the next coach. As we said earlier in this show, this season's a wash. Flush it down the drain. It is what it is. And then, okay, now next season, let's start working towards getting LSU back to being the LSU that we all know, which is a mean team who is competing for the college football playoff year in and year out, and is competing for national titles, every year, every 2 to 3 years at worst.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of national titles, how about this transition to the college football playoff rankings? I don't have a ton of thoughts on this, but I just did want to, briefly mention it. Just the most recent rankings, not a ton of shakeup at the top. Obviously we're Aggies. I think resume wise, A&M has a very good argument to be ahead of Indiana and possibly even Ohio State. Again, in terms of resume, I'm not saying that A&M is better than Ohio State, but that didn't happen. They're still at third. My sort of thought on this is, hey, not just A&M, but anybody, it's like, just keep winning. Things will work out, when it all shakes out at the end. But I do think some of the comments made by the chairman were a little eye-opening. I feel like we run into this every year, but it seems as though, well, it just seems as though that the criteria that they claim to be using ultimately doesn't matter, and it's kind of just all the eye test, which is, I mean, look, if that's what you want to do, then I guess go ahead, but don't give us all this nonsense about the criteria that you're using, because you could say it with, not to use our alma mater as the example here, even excluding A&M, it's like, yet again, how is Notre Dame 6 spots ahead of Miami? They played. Miami beat them. Like, they have the same exact record. I mean, it's just like, do I think Notre Dame is playing better right this second than Miami? Yeah, I do. And obviously the committee does. But what is the point of playing that game if it doesn't matter? And Lane Kiffin brought that up about A&M, saying A&M would be in the exact same spot if they had not played Notre Dame and played a cupcake. And instead they went on the road and beat Notre Dame. What was the point of that game if you're not going to reward them? Indiana didn't play anybody in the non-con. I mean, it's like, what is the criteria? And at least give us a straight answer, because it just seems like, again, however many years we've been doing this, it's just like they use certain criteria to put certain teams where they want, and they use different criteria to put other teams where they want them. And ultimately it's not cohesive. It's not the same stuff. It's just who they want.
Yeah, and it changes from year to year. We're trying to iterate and get better and, make sure that we got the right criteria. But every single year, everybody's yelling from the rooftops like, well, the criteria sucks. And the criteria last year was better than the criteria this year, or it was worse, or, there's just a ton going on with it. And like the College Football Playoff Committee's president right now, I forget his name right now, but he's an Indiana grad, first of all, which is a little bit, whatever. Indiana deserves to be very high up, no doubt about it. I think they're a top three team in the country right now. So I'm not throwing any shade at Indiana, but yeah, exactly. There you are. That our friend Corey Burton at Locked On Vandy committee is all over the place. Yes, they are all over the place. I'll give you a stat right here since you mentioned A&M. So Robert Behrens tweeted this, and it was from a Bill Connolly. His college football S&P Plus top 766 week 12. And, Robert Behrens, he writes for Good Bull Hunting, a Texas A&M blog. He said wins of 21 plus points against teams ranked in the S&P SP Plus top 50. Ohio State has 1, Penn State. Indiana has 1, Illinois. Texas A&M has 3, Mississippi State, LSU, and Missouri. So, like, if we're using criteria, like Texas A&M seems like they have an argument to be the number 1 team in the country. And his statement after the rankings came out last night was kind of the eye test. Like you said, it was kind of like all over the place. It was like, well, we decided this because of this. And there wasn't really any like criteria in there. Like, are you using the FPI? Are you using strength of schedule? Are you using statistics? Like, are you using, how, average win? Are you using it in terms of how much teams are winning by? Like, what's the criteria? It's like, well, it was kind of like, well, we just picked Indiana because Indiana's better. It's like, what are we really talking about here? So, the committee's all over the place. The last thing I'll say on it is I get people's frustration with the committee. I have my frustrations with the committee at times too. Some people want to go back to the BCS. My opinion is there is a human element to football. We get referees every week. Look, I'm guilty of it too. I am yelling at the referees every week. SEC officiating is terrible. I get it. But there's a human element to this game that actually kind of makes it fun. And it gives us fodder like this to talk about. And I, for one, do not want to go back to the BCS era. I thought the BCS era was terrible. I thought the computers were terrible. I was one of the ones who was done with that, ready to go to the playoff, ready to go to a committee. So I don't think there's any perfect solution to this. I just think that's the truth. We're never going to find the exact perfect right solution for this. So do I think that this is the best solution that we've got? Yes. And I think that it can get better, and we should, yell at the committee and try to bully them into being better. But I think this is the best solution for what we've got. There's never going to be a perfect solution. So at the end of the day, the only rankings that matter are the final college football rankings that come out after the championship games are played and we see who's in the playoff. And I'm kind of waiting for that. And until then, it's just a whole lot of talk and a whole lot of fodder.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And that's why they do it, right? They do it, the reveal show every Tuesday night to get people talking. So
Sure.
I get it. Yeah. I just, I think it is challenging because the criteria seems very vague. And I think that's probably on purpose. Like you said, the human element, I think at the end of the day, it's just who these people think are better. And they're going to use this criteria to justify this team and this criteria to justify this team. And, the other thing too, just on the Notre Dame front or some of these teams, it's like, I don't think I've ever heard them say this, but it's kind of funny because, this is what people give the SEC crap for is like the quality loss thing. And it's like, well, that looks exactly like what they're giving Notre Dame credit for because Notre Dame's best win is against, Southern California. It is a good win. I'm not saying it's a bad win.
Arkansas.
But, they've got one win against a ranked team and they have 2 losses, one of which is to another team that has the same record as them. And so again, it's like if you want to look at the teams Miami has lost to and say those are worse losses, and therefore that somehow means that Notre Dame needs to be ranked higher than them, even though Miami beat Notre Dame head to head on the field, then just come out and say it, right? Because they're not doing it. They're not saying, well, we value Notre Dame losing these games by a total of 4 points to 2 good teams. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they will, but again, it lacks a lot of transparency, which I think is challenging for fans. I mean, look, again, we're Aggies. We're in a good position. I think there's an argument to be had that they should be higher, but you're splitting hairs. Indiana and Ohio State are great teams, and if you're number 3, you're still in the slot for a bye, and if you keep winning, you're going to be fine. But if I was a Miami fan, dude, I would be livid. And I'm sure that they are because again, there's a lot of 2-loss teams ahead of them, but one of them happens to be the team that they beat. And that team also happens to be the top ranked 2-loss team. So I'd be livid. But anyway, let's get to our final 2 segments as we're running up on time here. So we've got our biscuit of the week, and then I'll let you hit the Must Champ Coach of the Week first. That's right. Before I get out of order here.
We can start that one off. So a lot of good nominees this week, as per usual. During the season, we always have a ton of good nominees for Must Champ Coach of the Week. If you're new to Biscuits and SEC, Must Champ Coach of the Week. We love Coach Muschamp. Exhibits the passion of college football, punching whiteboards, blood running down his face, headbutting players, yelling at people on the sidelines, but was beloved by his players as well for players who played for him. So we love Coach Muschamp here at Biscuits SEC. So this award is in his honor every week. And this week's Muschamp Coach of the Week is Brent Key, who did a fantastic job of winning the press conference with Georgia Tech this week. He's getting so much pub for all these jobs and everything, and he's getting a lot of looks from a lot of different places. And I had to go up there. He keeps getting asked these questions about it. It's like, what are you going to do? And he answered this question, I think, in the best way that a coach can answer this question. And I think that it should put all the questions about whether Brent Key is leaving Georgia Tech to rest. So here is the Muschamp Coach of the Week, Brent Key.
Not when you lose one game, people say, oh, the storybook's over. Nah, it's just beginning. I could go on and on. I could say yes, no, all that crap. Slice me open and see what colors I bleed.
Slice me open and see what colors I bleed, man. That is awesome. Absolutely love that from Brent Key. That was great. And just not a smile on his face. He is dead serious. I bleed gold and white and blue. Rambling wreck till I die. And I think he's going to be there for a long time because he has done an incredible job. So Brent Key, your Muschamp Coach of the Week.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I love that. How can you not? And obviously, if you're
a Georgia Tech yellow jacket and you find yourself watching the Biscuits, an SEC episode, we are fans of Brent Key and Buster Faulkner and what those guys are doing. So we hope they are there for
We're big fans. We're big fans of Haynes King because Haynes King,
right,
former Aggie quarterback, now at Georgia Tech. We love Haynes King. We are so happy for him, proud of him that he is doing so well up there at Georgia Tech. So we are rooting for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets this year, without a doubt. I also think that clip of Brent Key in that press conference is going to be played in hype videos and on the Jumbotron in Atlanta for many years to come. So be on the lookout. I guarantee you that one is going to come up a lot. And so Brent Key, your Muschamp Coach of the Week, we will get the trophy, the certificate in the mail to him within the next 5 years.
It's a major award. Speaking of major awards, Biscuit of the Week. So we'll close out with this. We do this every week. We love biscuits here, hence the name. We love food, Southern culture, and so we like to highlight a biscuit each week. This week's nominee and winner comes from none other than Captain Biscuit himself,
my man,
our good friend, Rick Wilmarth. And this is just a classic one. A lot of times we're doing like homemade or we're doing some kind of mom and pop or, a local establishment. But I've had Cracker Barrel biscuits quite a bit and they're very good. So there is nothing wrong with going to Cracker Barrel and getting you a pile of biscuits. This one coming from the Huntsville, Alabama location. Sounds like Rick had a good time there. He enjoyed a great meal in front of a roaring fire. So it's hard to beat Cracker Barrel, man. The roaring fire, the rocking chairs, good food. And I know they had some PR issues recently, but seems like things are back on the up and up at Cracker Barrel, and the biscuits, confirmed by our friend Captain Biscuit, are good and worth the trip. I think that will do it. We have gone darn near half an hour over time. Catch us tomorrow night on SEC After Dark, where we give our Week 12 picks. And please consider following or giving at least our friends over here a watch. Offseason After Dark with Mike Huseman, Tuesday mornings. Bama After Dark with Jake Thomas, Tuesdays in the evenings. We got us on Wednesdays, Corey Burton and Ishmael Troop with the regular guys pod. A bit of an irregular posting schedule, but they will be back soon. And then, of course, SEC After Dark on Thursdays at 9 Eastern. That will do it for us. Oh, good programming note for Mike. Friday morning this week for Offseason After Dark with an Auburn guest. So if you're interested in the coaching search, give that a watch on Friday morning. But that will do it. For Boss Man, I'm Hammer. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Sign up for the newsletter. You guys are awesome. Thank you. And we'll see y'all next week.
See you guys next week. Thanks for joining us.